All right, China's economy is imploding. I mean, this is very important. We're going to bring in China expert Peter Schweizer, president of the Government Accountability Institute. Peter, as always, thank you. So, look, I'm a China hawk. I'm just, they don't do anything right. They are our enemy. So, but what's happening is their economy, which was in bad shape, there was a tremendous real estate property collapse, bank lending collapse. Now what's happening is factories are shuttering. There are protests in many of the cities. Reports are that wages are not being paid. All right. Some of this has to do with Trump turning the screws on 145% tariff. But a lot of this started before Trump started the elevation of tariffs. So this is the kind of thing, I mean, I'm not going to say it's Tiananmen Square, but when you see protests in a number of these cities, one thinks about Tiananmen Square. My question to you is, I know that Xi Jinping is an imperial dictator. I understand that. But how much danger is he in? Could he be overthrown if this kind of thing continues?
Well, here's the thing you need to know about China. It's a very brittle political system. You've got about 100 million members of the Chinese Communist Party. You've got 1 billion to 1.5 billion in the general population. And the entire legitimacy of the regime over the last 40 years, once they got out of the Maoist period, has been, look, we're going to grow the economy, we're going to make it successful, and you're going to allow us to govern and rule. That has not been working recently. And the reason it doesn't work, Larry, you would know better than I would, is that they don't have a Marxist-Leninist system. They don't have a market system. They have a market Leninist system. So they have tried to use certain elements of the market, but it's directed by the regime. Right. And when you get a disruption like tariffs, it presents huge problems. And this is not a regime that can turn on a dime. So they've got serious problems here.
Where do you think, Xi is doing everything wrong. Now, I don't want to second guess the meeting in Switzerland. There's not going to be a deal overnight anyway. It's going to take a long time to put a China deal together. Trump will keep the tariffs high. How high, I don't want to speculate. That's up to him. But my point is, I'm not sure that this China economy is going to improve. I don't see. There was a Wall Street Journal story. You probably saw it. China's economy is now deteriorated to the point where they've stopped publishing the numbers about a key series of indicators, not least of which is the unemployment rate. Then they just won't even publish this stuff. So somebody said, yeah, that's right. They stopped publishing soybean sauce, for heaven's sakes. So I'm just saying, how serious is this? And is this deeper than, you call it, I think, a Leninist market economy. This is just a state-controlled, state-directed economy, and like most state-directed economies, is headed for utter failure.
Yeah, no, you're right. And look, the reason it has worked for the decades that it has is because it was predicated on these cheap exports around the world, primarily to the United States, but also around the world. And when that gets disrupted with these tariffs by Trump, it creates huge problems because they don't have the flexibility, the incentive structure that we have with market capitalist economies. But here's the other thing, Larry, that I think is really brilliant on the part of this president. You have the tariffs related to their economic conduct. You also have the tariffs on specific issues like fentanyl, which is something that China can actually fix. I think the fact that he's saying there are a series of issues you have to deal with here make it even harder for them to manage. So I think China is running out of options. They tried a stimulus 6 to 8 months ago before Trump was even in office. That didn't work. They're trying a new stimulus. The issue is not stimulus. The issue is the nature of the economy and the fact that the old model of these massive cheap exports, it's no longer happening around the world like it used to, in part because of these new tariffs.
The other thing that may be endangering Xi Jinping's presidency, or whatever he is, imperial presidency, is his neighbors are turning towards us and away from him. I mean, I always thought that the Vietnamese story is so interesting. Perhaps Cambodia, Malaysia go along with that. India is coming, pretty much in the U.S. sphere. I don't know, South Korea, I'll leave them alone for a minute. But part of the Trump strategy is to circle China. in economic terms, yes, but also in national security terms. And at some point, China, they're not going to have the resources to keep drumming that military through and threatening, whether it's Taiwan or other adventures. So it just seems like the noose is tightening on Xi Jinping.
Yeah, no, it is. And look at the way in which President Trump is trying to negotiate these trade deals. They're essentially leaving China last. We're talking to Vietnam. We're talking to India. We're talking to South Korea and Japan. We're going to secure those deals. We're going to leave China last. Let's also keep in mind, Larry, over the last year, President Xi has been purging a lot of senior military officials in China on charges of corruption. That has a lot more to do with his lack of confidence that they back him politically. So I agree. He's got serious problems. His reversion to kind of this hard line, almost a replaying of the Maoist era, is not working. And he has got big trouble ahead of him.
Yeah, I think so. I think his time could be limited, but it's very interesting. Anyway, Peter Schweizer, as always, thank you for your